empowering you through the voice of truth with your host, Dr. Joel Hunter.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Joel Hunter, host of Power Talks, empowering you through the voice of truth. On today's program, we have with us from the Advent Health System, Mike Griffin, who is the Vice President of Advocacy and Public Policy. Yamile, I just learned that this morning, Luna, the Vice President for Human Resources, and Shannon Gravitt, Vice President for Public Affairs. And I'm looking forward to learning from these compassionate leaders and talking about the well-being of our community and the outreach they have to so many. First of all, we really do work together. We're all friends, and we see each other often, and I love it that we get to work together. But I wanted the program to be about community service, community impact. You're in the health field anyhow, but it's not just the health field that concerns itself with in-resident patients. We are on a community impact, health impact council. Is that a council you mean?
Yes.
Okay, together, so you're constantly hearing projects that you can support and so on and so forth. But it goes broader than that. Mike, let me start with you as being the person who has to do with policy, public policy. You've been at this a while. You were a journalist for the Sentinel for how many years?
25 years.
25 years.
Yep.
Started out selling papers on the corner, a boy with, knickers.
That's right.
But what are some of the policies, especially as concern the marginalized community, that you deal with on behalf of healthcare, especially in the Florida legislature?
Sure. Well, I'm excited to be here with this team that we've built here at Florida Hospital, which Adventist Health System is the parent company of Florida Hospital. And we view hospitals as anchor institutions in the community. Yeah. So we're in all the communities. We're in 9 states, 49 hospitals. We're usually the largest employer in that community. We're dug in that community. And the way we view public health now is more than just sponsoring clinics and those types of things. We really want to look at the health of the community. Yeah. And we define those in ways for the basic concept that as the community prospers, so shall you. Yeah. And we work on issues like housing, food security to make sure that people have access to fresh fruits, vegetables, those kinds of community workforce development. Those are the things that we're moving our support towards, because if we can get that out of the hospital and into the community to improve the community's health, then we can do a lot of great things on the medical side as well.
That's really, really smart. Let's talk about the personal angle of it just for a second. Yamile, you, as an HR person, you deal with personnel all the time. But part of dealing with personnel is not just arranging the right policies, it's really getting them involved in the lives of people and their struggles. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that you're a 2-time cancer survivor. You've been through the stuff. What do you keep in mind when you're addressing people who are scared, they're in survival mode, and this could be people who are on staff, they're part of the personnel of the hospital, or it could be people in the community. What helps you get into their lives, as people, instead of just professionals or patients or whatever?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us on your show. This is great. We're really honored to be here with you. I would say from a people standpoint, we can never take for granted where our employees or even people in our community are at. And so first and foremost, I think it's important that you step back and listen to what they're trying to tell you, what kind of help they're trying to get. We live in a community that is resource rich, and so many generous people that are willing to write a check or lend a hand or spend time with individuals. So for me, the work that I had the privilege of working with Mike and Shannon on in community went beyond just another job or another career. It really was a ministry. And I've carried that over into the HR world, knowing that we do have employees that may be homeless, that may be struggling, and thinking through ways that through our programs internally, we can continue to help them overcome the struggles, whether they are food insecurity or homelessness or just financial issues. So really for me, it's about listening and figuring out, now that I know so much from my colleagues, and I'm grateful for the time I've spent with them, to be able to cross that over into our employee population.
Yeah. By the way, you're in the right spot. This woman adds buoyancy every time she goes. The whole room picks up.
Yeah,
when she walks into a room, it's just like, oh my goodness, I feel stronger.
Amen.
You know?
Absolutely.
So it's just awesome.
Thank you.
Shannon, you are you're key in many slots in our community. You're about to you're next in line to take on the chairmanship of the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness. You're the president-elect or the chairman-elect. I couldn't talk you out of that. You decided to do it anyhow.
We're coming for you.
But you also have a good feel for what is happening in the rest of the community. Could you give us some sort of idea of the philosophy of why you kind of wanted to go through a renaming process for Florida Hospital into Advent Health? I mean, Florida Hospital has a great reputation already.
Almost
and
110 years.
Yeah, and everybody is grateful for this wonderful, compassionate institution, both in this region and others in the country. So why change it?
That's a great question, and interestingly, the legacy of the 150-year-old Adventist health system is that whole person and treating that whole person in their body, mind, and spirit. And the word Advent really signals something of significance. Something is coming, and that's what we believe, that healthcare in many ways is broken. You can't ask anyone who deals with it on a daily basis that this is something that doesn't demand change and a new way of thinking, and that's what we want to be. We want to be there when you're sick. Obviously, we always will. That's our tradition in extending that healing ministry of Christ. That's not going to change with a name change. But what we do have now is an army of 80,000 employees now in 9 states. We're a national healthcare system now based here in Florida. We want to leverage that strength and really be that differentiator that it is. All these things that we're talking about that we see in the community, that's what needs to be healed often, right? You have health issues, you have struggles, but making sure you're really touching the person. And what is it inside? And that's what we see in our data. These folks can weigh in. We base a lot of what we're doing in the community on our health needs assessment. We go into the community, we ask the questions, and we decide what we're going to do based on real data that's telling us what's happening in our communities, not only here in Central Florida, but across the country. And we want to move the needle. We can't do all things, but we want to see, like an issue like homelessness, like mental and behavioral health, things that we're seeing, and we want to go in there and partner with organizations and put resources there and try to really move the needle. It's our responsibility.
Yeah. The partnership around the country, to Shannon's point, I mean, when our work in Washington and in states around the country, what we want to demonstrate is that there is a value, there is a difference in faith-based healthcare. The Adventist Church, the Adventist faith has been a leader in that for 110 years. And it's really, it's 150 years. It's really an opportunity to demonstrate the value of our mission of extending Christ's healing ministry. And what we're doing is we're kind of redefining where that ministry goes. So that's kind of the shift in focus towards more what people call the social determinants of health. If you live in a house, you're healthier than if you're on the street. If you have access to fresh fruit, vegetables, non-processed meats, you're healthier. That's what we're trying to do with our advocacy strategy now.
Could you name, I'll just kind of throw this out to whoever wants to answer, and then you all can piggyback off one another. But just name some of the components that you're focusing on that either address the impediments in the healthcare system generally, because people get frustrated with, you know, both the insurance part and the you know, the kind of the machine-like clinical, you know, focus on the disease rather than the person, and so on and so forth. But so as you kind of switch, you make these significant improvements. What are some of the components you are addressing? You named a couple of them just now. You're becoming more involved in general community health, comprehensive health out in the community. What are some of the others?
Well, I mean, if you look at the homeless initiative here in Central Florida, the idea was not to give the homeless person a sandwich or a blanket, but to get the homeless person into an apartment. And what we saw is the cost to the community on that effort dropped dramatically. From something like $36,000 a year to keep them on the street to less than $7,000 to get them into an apartment. What Florida Hospital does is provide the wraparound services to make sure that they're healthy, that if they get injured, they're taken care of without having to come to the emergency room. You know, another area that we're starting to work on is partner on mental health issues to try to advocate in Washington and in Tallahassee and in other states for more mental health funding. Mental health probably is the real silver bullet because of the complicating factors of mental illness. But when you look internally, I mean, we're doing things internally. We have an initiative with our physicians. It's faith-based care, or faith in a clinical setting, and where we're working with our doctors on how to deal with the spiritual side, the whole person side when they're dealing with patients. So it's not just the temperature, it's not just your blood pressure. It's, you know, are you feeling okay today? Or anything on your mind? You know, would you like to pray? Those are kinds of issues that we see happening within our organization that I think is really a game changer for the industry.
I'd like to add to that because I first, when you think about going to a doctor's office and having a very specific question about, do you have someone at home that cares for you and that loves you? Who gets asked that question when they go to the doctor's office? So that ties to what Mike is talking about. When you can go beyond just the temperature and what's going on with you today and what kind of medications I can get to you and move you out so I can see the next person. That's the differentiator for us. That's where we're touching that aspect of mind, body, spirit. And then you have an opportunity to open a door to other resources that would not even be thought of if you didn't just ask these very simple questions. And that's part of the data that we are collecting that will actually help us redefine the way healthcare is provided to our community.
That's good.
And consumers are demanding it, right? Back to not only this piece of it, but just taking the clunkiness and the headaches out of your everyday healthcare. What is more important, right? People want simple. They want you to know me. They want you to make it easy. I don't want to have to call 7 people and wait for an appointment. I want to do, and we're working on that. We will have consumer technology platforms that you can get the pricing you need, make your appointments online, have a relationship with your caregivers. It's time, right? We own that. We know that we're a system that isn't easy to navigate, and that's also the benefit of coming together across the system as one.
Accessibility is a big deal. I mean, it's so intimidating even to have to call a doctor and set up an appointment and so on and so forth.
Or you may not want to call a doctor. The young generation doesn't want to call.
No.
They want to do it on their phone.
Exactly.
Telemedicine. I mean,
That's
our CEO, Terry Shaw, his vision is to never discharge a patient. And what he means by that is that you develop a relationship. And the relationship is that if someone has a health question, they can go to their phone, they can reach out to a doctor that way, or to a physician's assistant or a nurse. I mean, it's really the idea of we want to care for people in every aspect of their lives. You know, that's really what it's about.
You know, I'm getting so many calls on my cell now from, my doctor's office. I'm part of the system here, and they go, "Hey, we need to talk to you about," and they're just following up. I'm going, "Hey, I just went. I'm good." It's okay. But there's a real effort now to keep in conversation.
You know, the other piece I would add as a Latina,
Yeah.
that we also are providing that ability for you to contact physicians that you can communicate with in your own language.
Great.
And that is so important,
it's
knowing
huge.
that the population of Central Florida is growing. And so with our Latinos and our families that need to have that know me, as Shannon indicated, make it easy for me, being able to talk to them in their own language in ways that they can understand, meeting them where they're at, and helping to even provide preventative health care so that before you're ill, we can, see you through your phases of wellness is something else that's really, really important to
That's
us.
really good. Let me ask this. I've been a part of organizations that have gone through huge changes. Not as big as the Advent Health System, but pretty big. And I know that to make a transition to something new causes angst among those who work there. They don't know what this means for me. I mean, everything you guys are saying is wonderful, but what is that? How does that affect my job? What are you facing within the Adventist family itself when it comes to looking toward the future and really building something significantly different for the future?
That's a great question. And the challenge, a lot of people view this as just a name change. It's really not. What we're doing is we're changing the culture of a company that was really a very diverse company, more like a holding company of several smaller entities. So to bring everybody together under one name, under one brand, that means that the culture really has to change within the community. Everybody has to understand the vision. Everybody has to understand the history and the legacy of Adventist healthcare. And when you look at, my former employer was Disney. At some point, you look to the fact that what happens in Orlando under Advent Health will now impact our facilities in Kansas. What happens in Kansas affects Kentucky and Georgia and Texas. So it really is a change of culture, philosophy, and HR, Human Resources, have been doing a fantastic job behind the scenes through a series of in-house training programs to get people to think about those things, to think about the patient first, and what it means to work for Advent Health.
Yeah.
And the best companies, you see that in your employees, right? Because they are our best advocates, right? If they're not, I mean, when we talk about advocacy, our employees are first in line, right? So we took a and Yamil can talk about it, a 30-year plus employee of Florida Hospital. So she's one of those that will really feel the change. But we did, and it's a whole care experience. We really took them through a series of almost focus groups and trainings so they understand what this means and take pride. So that the patients see that. Anybody that comes in contact, not just in our hospitals, we have so many clusters of touch points with consumers. They need to feel that in whatever you do in the organization. And that was it will be an ongoing, and anybody that comes on board, we will do it, but they have to believe it. And that isn't something that ends with the name change. It will continue on and deepen.
And it's little things, like now we all have the same name badge holder, and it's shaped like a heart. I wish I'd brought it.
I know. I should be
Shaped
wearing
like
it.
a heart, and it says, I care for you the way I care for and different employees would have a different person. Like it could be my daughter, my son, my mother, my wife, my husband. And so everyone, that's the interaction. And everybody from the nurse on the front line to the bookkeeper in the corporate office, we all have the same name tags, because we really want people to think that no matter where you are in the company, no matter what you're doing, whether you're clinical or office or support, we're there for a reason. We're to extend the healing ministry of Christ and to help care for the patient. And that's really what the whole focus is.
I love the fact that we put our families members' name in there. Whoever we've chosen, their name goes in there.
Well, the actual name.
And it goes beyond
Good.
just
That's great.
it goes beyond just a training. It truly is an accountability that we can have on one another to call people out. Are we treating this patient the way your person on your heart indicates that you're going to treat them? And it's reminding individuals that we treat each other as Christ taught treated people here on earth. So I think all of those little reminders, not only just the training that we've now embedded for 80,000 employees across the United States and all the entities that we have, but our doctor's office, our center cares, Hospice of the Comforter, and it goes on and on as far as the entities that we have an opportunity to impact. So to Shannon's point about advocacy, when you think about 80,000 and times that by at least 4 per household, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot
and that
of
is a
people.
huge footprint for our mission of extending the healing ministry of Christ.
You know, one of the things I've loved as I've gotten to know the organization better is the fact that you're not only making it more personal. You know, you're not going to the granular, but you're going to the I've been to a few events that you guys sponsor, both large training events held at one of the attractions hotels where thousands are involved. And you have people speak like race car drivers and stuff like that. They're just fun. It's just fun. And then the concert on the lawn, you guys sponsored Michael W. Smith concert, open to the public. And in between set changes, we could interview some nonprofits. It just builds kind of an environment of inclusion and excitement. Who thinks of all that stuff?
Team effort.
Yeah, it really is a team effort.
Absolutely.
Shannon's
You know.
team in Central Florida is just the best, and it's, Shannon mentioned it earlier. It's really partnerships, because as big an organization as we are, we can't do everything, and I think that's been a realization that you know, if we're gonna get involved in helping to solve the housing crisis, we're not apartment builders. We're a hospital, so we need to partner with people who understand that business. But what Shannon's team does, and what Shannon does a great job of, is what we call being a convener. We bring people together, and because of our unique position in every marketplace, we're a big business. We're a not-for-profit that also helps support other not-for-profits, and we're faith-based. So we have the ability to bring together businesses, not-for-profits, churches, and get together and try to focus that on a problem. And Shannon's strategy of doing that in Central Florida has been pretty successful.
Well, and sometimes it's getting our partners to think differently too, right? And boy, you see, if you just serve that role as convener, sometimes a new avenue opens and a light bulb goes off. I said, wait a minute, let's approach it this way. And these are all great individuals and organizations doing wonderful things, but sometimes we need to step up and look at it from a different view, through a different lens. But as an organization, and that's why we all love working for Florida Hospital, soon to be Advent Health. We have a bias for generosity, we do, and we believe it's our moral responsibility. It's healthcare is taking care of our communities, and our communities are healthier, as Mike said. Our country is healthier, and our employees take pride in that. And so it's actually really exciting for us to see this transformation to take place, because it isn't an overnight thing. It's going to be decades in the making. Again, we work in an industry that is very complicated and changing by the minute. And so it's exciting to be a part of it.
I think the other part is once you're excited and you share what you have, is kind of like that whole concept of not hiding your light under a bushel, but letting it shine, and that we are a beacon, a literal beacon in our community, our buildings, and our reach, and our mission statement. All of those pieces start drawing other lights towards this work, and that's what we see. And so through our internal events that we have, to those external ones where we're giving back to our community, all of those start bringing like-minded people, and through that, you grow your ability to truly impact the community.
This is great. I keep thinking of the principle in the creation story about, it's not good that the man should be alone. I'll make him a helper suitable for him. And the helper, the Hebrew, is the one who talks back, the one who has a different perspective. And when you convene, and you not only convene people, but you're a part of other people's convening. Shannon, I know with you being a part of the Commission on Homelessness, and Mike, with you not only being a part of the Homeless Services Network. You're on the board there, but you're also part of the mayor-elect's transition team. You know, you guys are everywhere. This is great. I love this.
Yeah, well, some days I'm not so sure, but yeah.
Depends on the day.
It depends on the day.
That's right. Good for you. Go get them.
Go, Mike.
But you're so integrated in this community that I think that it's part of not only what benefits the community, but it keeps you fresh as well.
It does.
Because as Shannon was saying, you know, this is all about seeing from each other's perspectives, and that gives us the kind of synergy that makes us all better and smarter. And it's just fun doing this together.
Absolutely.
It's just fun doing this together. Well, man, we're out of time. This goes,
man, that went
you know,
fast.
I just keep thinking of that Meet Joe Black movie, you know, where Anthony Hopkins gets up and says, "Doesn't it go by in a blink?" Yeah. You know, that's what's talking to you guys is. It goes by in a blink. But okay, we're out of time. I'm keeping talking here. But I want to thank Shannon and Mike and Yamil for joining me today and for our ongoing relationship to serve our community. Remember, these discussions are just that. They're discussions among us. We'd love to see you continue the discussions at home and go one step farther. Get involved. Because when power talks, you're empowered through the voice of truth. See you next time.
You just watched Power Talks, a Good Life 45 original production that makes you part of our Hope Team here on Good Life 45, where hope happens.